Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome to another episode of Tiny Boy Trying to Grow, TBT2G, as I like to call it.
I love
We're
that
here
acronym.
today. Thank you, Nick. We're here today with Bryce. Say hi, Bryce.
Hi.
And Nick.
Hey.
Okay. I wanted to separate the voices out so people knew who was who.
I'm
So-
Bryce.
And I'm Nick.
You're not going to follow it up with anything. And together we're anything.
No.
All right, good. I'm glad.
Brick.
So the questions I ask every guest on the podcast here is just to get to know you guys a little bit better because the stream doesn't know who you are. So we went over who are you already, as you know. We'll do one at a time. We'll do Bryce answer these three questions and we'll go to Nick. So Bryce, what do you do for work?
I work for a nonprofit organization at Grand Valley's campus, working with students and helping them grow in their walk with Jesus.
Okay. How did we meet, Bryce?
How did we meet? We met by going to Applebee's after weekly meetings at Crew.
Is that what we
You
first
were
met?
showing me how to music, yeah.
How to music.
How to music.
How to music.
How
Did
to
I- 'cause,
music.
yeah,
How
I
to
used
jam
to-
to the heavy stuff.
Yeah, I gave
Mm.
you
To the
music metal
soft core,
lessons.
soft core.
No, metalcore.
Soft screams.
No,
That's what I like.
you-
Soft screams. Just cringe.
Bryce
that's
calls
what-
raspy vocals soft screams, by the way, is what he's referencing.
Yeah, that's what they are.
So is that, I didn't really know you very much before I asked you for a ride there. I remember that.
Yep.
We didn't
We
talk
didn't-
at all.
we didn't.
How did I randomly walk up to you and be like, hey, can I get a ride to Applebee's?
I think Raleigh maybe. Oh, that's what it was. I think Raleigh would give you a ride to Applebee's and I'd give you
No.
a ride home.
I was friends with you guys before Raleigh. I know for sure. Because I wasn't friends with Raleigh till fall retreat.
Mm.
Well,
I knew who he was. We just didn't really talk until
I
fall
don't know,
retreat.
man. Maybe I just did it out of a nice
Kindness
gesture.
of your heart.
don't
I just was
remember.
sitting around hoping
I
someone
think
would
it was
offer
my
me a ride.
senior year, though.
No.
It was my senior year.
You were a student there for 2 years, I think. I don't know.
But I don't think you hung around me when you had the green hat.
When I had the green hat.
Chris had a green hat he always wore. That's what we knew him by.
That's a no.
God
You
is
knew me by
able.
God is able.
Yeah,
Okay.
God is able, kid.
When I sang God is able in the worship band. Okay. I
Can
was
you
wearing
play
my green
sample?
hat at the time though. Give me. I don't. No. Last question. How long have we known each other, Bryce?
Debatable, I guess, now that we've hashed that
Now
out
that
on
we're-
when we met.
Now that we're unsure of when it started.
3 years? 4?
What year was it? Was it 2014? 20? No, it had to be 2012 or
20
13.
13 or 4 or 12.
It had to have been 2012. I think.
I don't
Anyway.
think we talked in 12. I think it was 13.
Are you sure?
but I only knew you as God is able for like
So maybe it was early 2013 or something. That first, because I started going to the Crew the first semester of 2012. Who did I talk to at all?
Josh Bukema.
That's true. I tried to join the band like right away. Okay, that's a
where
good
you-
point. That's a good point. So maybe it was 2013. But even though I was in the band, I didn't know Raleigh very well until later.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I was friends with Nick. I know for sure. I think we kind of hit it off at fall retreat too, because we didn't go to the dance,
Mhm.
and then you were
We're
like,
both
"Yeah, I don't like dancing."
I hate dances.
Yeah.
I
Let's,
did that
let's
coming
talk
out.
about
I
how
went
much
back
we
to the-
don't like dances.
I went back to the cabin, and Nick was just sitting there. So, Nick, what do you do for work?
I'm a web developer, so I make. I currently work for a ISD. It's an intermediate school district, and I make software for students and teachers and stuff.
Put the
like
mic slightly closer to your mouth when you talk.
that. Okay, sorry.
How did we meet? I guess we just
Well,
just
pretty
hashed
much
that
like
out.
the same way. Yeah, but fall retreat. So it's like once a year thing that we went. Neither of
like a
us wanted to
weekend, right?
dance.
Right.
and,
they had a dance, and I was
It was like
I'm
little
not really about
cabins,
that.
right? And I was just sitting in a cabin, listening to music. I was listening to music or something.
You weren't just sitting there staring at the wall.
Right. Just complete
sitting
just
there.
silence. No, but we then we just like hit it off. We were just talking. I don't know. Like at first we're like, yeah, not really into dances, but then we just I don't even remember exactly what we talked about. I just remember it being somewhat meaningful. You know what I mean? Like
I feel like most conversations that weekend are.
yeah, for sure.
My first one with Raleigh was about video games, so I mean that
So
was
meaningful.
a meaningful conversation that
So
weekend.
meaningful.
Yeah.
Nick almost pooped his pants when we were hanging out.
What?
Walking down climbing down
Oh.
that tower, and you're afraid of heights. and
Yeah.
then
I'm
Piece
so
of wood
I'm
broke.
6'8" and I'm afraid of heights. That's the ironic thing in my life.
And I beat you at basketball.
Yeah,
I remember
close
playing
though.
one.
It was close.
You have a foot over me.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, all right, you guys ready for the first question? It's quite a change of pace of what the pace is currently.
Yeah.
I got a yeah and a crap.
Yeah.
Drop top.
Drop top.
Drop top. Great. All right, ready for this?
Great.
I actually have to copy and paste this somewhere else because it's too small. All right. What are your thoughts on assisted suicide for elderly individuals affected by severe terminal illnesses, respectively, as a man of God and non-believer? This was written for me and Tyler, but respectively, as a man of God, what are your thoughts on the repercussions afterwards? Will you be held damned? Could you control your sanity with what you've done? Is it an act of sin or an act of kindness?
So
Assisted suicide.
Assisted
would
suicide
say-
for elderly when they are in some kind of
yeah, what was the part B
State
of that?
of-
first
Part B of
question?
that?
mental.
The first part was, what are your thoughts on assisted suicide for elderly individuals affected by severe terminal illnesses?
Okay.
What
As
i-
an example, could be like
What is-
advanced stage of cancer or something like that.
Right.
Okay.
Like someone who has a terminally ill
Got it.
Are they in pain?
terminal illness rather. That's unclear by this example
Okay.
or by this question.
So
I-
then the question is what are our thoughts on it? Is it okay? Is it a sin? And what are the like eternal repercussions?
Yep.
This actually happened in my family.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
My grandpa, I got doctors in the family and they doped him up with morphine till he died.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That's
Is that
nuts.
like is
Wow.
that legal? I don't even know. Like,
I don't
what
think
the legal.
so. I think it was kind of.
Oh, so it was like okay. Wow.
But you know, when you're messing with doctors.
How old was your grandpa?
He's older. Oh, probably 70s actually.
Was he in some terminal state?
He was. Yeah, he was dying.
Okay.
He was like on his last
Hmm.
leg, and
Nah.
it wasn't like he was. He was. I guess he wasn't like giving up like he would, and maybe this was.
It was voluntary though, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I don't know. I don't fully understand. My dad just like mentioned it. Like,
How old were you?
I was 5 when it happened. I wasn't.
Okay.
I wasn't in the.
So
room
you've
or
like
anything.
heard of stories and stuff of it. You weren't
Mm-hmm.
around or
Right.
knew what was
So I
happening
don't know
then.
the full deets.
How do you feel about assisted suicide in general then?
Assisted suicide. Well, you feel like.
Or I
it's a
guess
little-
like let's finish. We haven't really fully discussed this situation. So like for elderly
Right.
patients with terminally illness with a terminal illness.
It feels more normalized for me because it happened, or I believe it happened with my grandpa. Do I think that it messes with their eternal destination though? No. Why would the Bible teaches that you're a sinner, and when you die, or Jesus came and died for your sins, and if you accept Jesus, you receive that gift of forgiveness of sins. And so, past, present, and future. And I don't even know if there's anything in the Bible about taking your own life as a sin. So that would be a question in and of itself.
Yeah.
Well, I know the
Maybe a
Catholic Church
larger.
thinks that's a mortal sin. So you go to hell if you commit suicide in
So
the Catholic Church.
I just,
specify.
I guess, like, I'm not too familiar with Catholicism, so where in the Bible does it show me that? And so I think
I don't
that
know.
would be the
I just know that's a mortal sin.
right.
I grew up in
And
Catholicism.
so that's, yeah. I mean, if it's in the Bible, I'm willing to change my beliefs on that, but I don't think that there's not a sin that can't be forgiven.
Okay.
There's not a sin. I think I said that right.
So is it a sin then, or is it not a sin? It says not a sin.
I don't know.
Let's say for the doctor. Yeah, you don't know.
For the doctor who
Or
like,
either, I
put him under.
guess. Yeah, like I guess either.
I'd say that goes down to like the definition of what murder is. Like, what does it mean to murder someone? I don't know an exact definition, but
The legal definition.
I
Or-
don't know. Like, is it
or more.
involuntary, or can you, if with someone's consent, could you murder them? Like, would it be considered? Because the Bible talks about how they do not murder. It's one of the commandments. And
Really?
Yeah,
Are you sure?
10.
I'm just kidding.
Number
Go
5.
on.
I don't know.
I was just kidding. Go on. That was
Wow.
a joke that did not
Yeah, no.
land. Let's
Bad-
go.
bad-
It did not land.
Bad joke.
Is
Bad
it?
joke.
Oh, is it?
Just trying to lighten the mood. Go on, Nick.
I'm in the same spot as Bryce. I don't think that I don't have any personal experience with it, but I've thought about it, like if I'm old, I don't know, I don't want to just base my belief off of my preference, right? Like
Right.
I don't, but based on my preference, like if I'm old, I am going to die at some point. I'm in pain or suffering, and I want to stop that. I would want to talk with my family about it, like make sure that, because I could see someone very selfishly just pulling their own plug. And what I think a lot of people don't realize, or maybe they do, but it affects everyone around them. So like there's that moral implication on that person. But I would say, like, if the whole family is really wanting that, I think that's the
The
issue.
whole family wants them dead?
No,
Yeah,
not-
that's
you know,
exactly what I heard.
No, like, thinks that it's for the best to put them out of their suffering to end that, because I know you hear it all the time where people are really happy with someone passing because they were in pain, they
Right.
were in suffering, and especially the belief of eternal life and somewhere to go.
My only problem with the logic that you're saying, in terms of if the family thinks it's best that he go, is that same argument as a pro-life person is made for abortion all the time.
Sure.
Is if the whole family thinks that this person is not ready to have a child, or this child shouldn't be
Yeah,
born.
I would say,
That same
though,
argument is
on
made.
that, there's not the consent of the baby.
Okay.
When, like, I would assume, unless they're in, like, a vegetative state of some sort or
Mhm.
unconscious, that they would have some kind of consent of the person who's being terminated. So I feel like that's a different
Sure.
can of worms.
That's a good
there.
point. What if the person that is terminally ill is, like, not in a conscious state?
Yeah, I don't know at that point.
I mean, well, but then
People do it
but
all the
then
time, though.
But yeah, then that's not assisted suicide.
It's pulling the plug at that point, which happens a lot.
like, yeah,
Sure. Okay.
that's a
Yeah.
different.
That's a different.
Can of
I hear you.
worms.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So you both agree that, let me reread the question. It doesn't make you hell damned or anything like that.
I don't think so, no.
I would agree. I don't think so.
Yes.
Yes, you don't think
Not-
so?
Yes.
He is agreeing with that. It does
Agreeant.
not
I
make you-
concur.
If you, the next part of that question was, like, could you control your sanity with what you've done? I'm assuming that, to me, sounds like it's asked from, like,
The doctor.
yeah, either the doctor
No.
or, like, an adult,
couldn't
like your,
do that for a
older
living.
family
There's no
that,
way.
did it with your grandpa. Did it bother them at all, like,
Oh,
after
no.
the fact?
And I don't know, like,
I think it kind of goes back to, too, what Nick was saying, where everyone kind of knows that, that he was in a lot of pain and stuff, and it was for the better. Then I
Right.
think you could control your sanity that way if you tell yourself that.
right. Yeah, I mean, and I guess, like, it's hard to say. I don't really know all the details, but my understanding, he had cancer, and so that caused pain.
This is your grandpa.
Yeah. And so they just gave him morphine to take away the pain, but I think they just kept
They also
doing it.
overdosed
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
same time.
I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah. I don't know. I think it's interesting, like an interesting question. I guess I can't say that would be behind doing assisted suicide, in the fact that you would have to, like, if you're terminally ill, you have choices in what you can, like, you have choices to make that you can deny medical attention to where you die.
Sure, but then
But
that
it
was
could
much
be,
more painful
painful.
death.
Well, I don't know. Like, if you're drugged out, but
Well, if you're denying medical attention, you're not drugged out. Like,
I guess it's like chemo versus not chemo, and then morphine versus not morphine. You could say no to the chemo, yes to the morphine. I don't think that they would deny that, but maybe
I'm
they
not sure
would.
of what your argument is there. or what you're trying to say.
Like I know people that have cancer who have said the chemo's not working. I'm not going to continue doing it. I'm just gonna go till this cancer kills me. And so, in a sense, I mean, you could argue that that's assisted suicide. Well, that's just suicide because they're giving up on. But it's to live a better life at the end because chemo sucks.
Gotcha.
And a lot of times I could see it being also really difficult for the family around to see them suffer the way that they do. You know, so it can be peace on both ends too. Like I've heard from a lot of people who have an older relative that is in absolute pain and suffering, and it does it hurts the family quite a bit too. So that's another piece too.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm personally not a fan of it, just because I think as an overall concept, I don't think it's up to us to decide when someone leaves Earth.
There's also the thing of like where the line is then.
What about capital punishment?
So like there are people who would.
That's a good point.
There
Go
are
ahead,
people
Nick.
who want to have assisted suicide done in their teens, 20s, 30s. Like, where do you draw the line at that point?
My
Do you
line
have to
is
have,
drawn
like,
if
some
someone
medical-
kills someone or
Yeah.
rapes somebody or does something terrible. That's to answer Bryce, but anyway, go on.
Oh, capital punishment.
Yeah, so that's where my line's
But
drawn.
I don't know. Like,
But
that
that's
seems
the thing. Like, there's a
like,
lot of people who.
when are you gonna start, playing the role of God?
Right.
Is kind of what the argument was
Mm-hmm.
for the assisted suicide. Like, they're wanting to take the control when they go out of this earth. I mean, aren't we doing that when we put someone in a chair?
I mean, yeah, but if that person in the chair is a murderer or a insane criminal, then I'm not
So
necessarily
we just
against it.
give up on them, and because they're mentally insane, then we just.
I'm
kill
not
'em?
saying like literally I'm saying, well, I guess you are kind of literally mentally insane, but I think if you do certain things, then yeah.
Yeah. That's not the question. So.
But it's not the
I wanna
question. We could
unpack
go into.
that.
I had a debate. I was on the debate team in high school, and we had one of the
Oh.
debates was on
I was on
if
the
capital-
debate team.
if
I was
capital
not on
punishment
the debate
was
team.
like correct or whatever, not morally, but like as a society, if it was correct.
Right.
And I can tell you that capital punishment actually does cost more money than life in prison.
Right.
So I mean that's something to keep in mind as well. It doesn't matter. Anyway. That's like the one stat I remember from that debate that I knew going in that like the person, because you could argue either side, so you had to have arguments for both sides.
Oh, right.
And every time I was like on the death penalty side, I was like, fuck, it's gonna hit me with the cheaper thing.
He's got that one on me.
He's got that stat on me.
On the financial side of it. Hey, capitalism. That's what it's all about.
Anyway, so as far as the control sanity, I think if you're generally for assisted suicide, I think you generally can. If the situation calls for it, I think most people will control their sanity for it. Me personally, like I'm not saying I would never do it, but it's an insanely hard and difficult call to make.
Yeah.
And it varies case by case, obviously, as well.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to make an my overarching opinion is that we shouldn't be playing God, but my opinion would vary case by case, obviously. Is my overall decision. This one, I'm not really sure how to take it, but if you had the option to steal $1 million with no consequences at all, would you do it?
So pretty much steal and not get caught.
Right.
Wait,
That's what
wait.
I said when I read
Yeah.
this before. I was like, the
Stealing
word
with
steal
no-
is the hang up there for me. I'm like, you're stealing. It belongs to somebody else, to something.
So
Doesn't
that's
belong
like a
to you.
consequence in itself, right?
Right,
Is that
yeah.
you have something of someone else's.
Exactly.
But if it's no consequences, then it's okay.
Then
it's
it's not
basically they're
stealing.
giving
Is
you
there a
$1 million.
difference?
I'd
Right. I
say.
don't know if the difference is we don't know of the consequences it's going to reap and we'll never get caught. Like, as in we don't know where we just stole this from. It's going to cost somebody, but we don't know and we'll never find out. We'll never
There's
get caught.
Well, there's also
Or-
sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was leaving it like or.
There's also
open.
the stat that most people who win the lottery end up going bankrupt and like ending up worse off than what they were.
I would never do that.
Okay, that's great, but I'm saying
would never
most,
be
but
worse
you'd
off?
probably never win the lottery either because you don't play.
Ooh.
It is true. I
So-
don't.
You
same,
don't
like,
play.
Most people do.
Hashtag Holland.
So like that's a consequence too. So like, are we talking no past or like more like mental, like any consequences there, or is it?
I would say more like physical consequences, like literal
So
consequences.
okay, so I'm not going to go to jail.
Right. Like it's not hurting anybody.
But it would be
and
coming from someone. Like that. Then it's
that's
not stealing.
right, exactly. Yeah, that's if you could just if someone gave you $1 million with no consequences, is what that is kind of wording.
Oh.
Like the fact that you're
It depends.
to me,
Is
the
it-
way he wants
is it
that
legal
question to be
money?
asked is like that. Is like, are you
Oh.
receiving this $1 million? But if you're stealing it from someone, there's objectively
I
consequences.
think
Yeah.
that I think.
Or
it's
are you
different.
stealing it from someone who has like
So like playing Robin Hood kind of dealing.
right? Like, are you stealing it from like
Bill
Mark
Gates.
Zuckerberg or Bill Gates or somebody who has a ton of money who would never even notice? Potentially, they probably would, but something like that where it's like there's no real consequence. Like you would never get caught. I'm not saying if you stole from one of them,
like
you
you're
wouldn't
his
get caught, I'm
accountant
saying-
or something. You
Wow.
fudge one of the digits.
Right, like I'm
and
saying, yeah, maybe that's what he's saying. It's like it's not necessarily robbing someone of like they're gonna go starve or something. You know what I mean? Like it's robbing someone who won't
Yeah.
necessarily they'll be fine without the $1 million.
It's
I
still
don't know.
taking. There's
Yeah.
a piece.
I don't
wouldn't
know
do
though.
it.
I
If,
don't.
if it's considered stealing, I wouldn't do it. There's no
Yeah.
way.
I would like to think I wouldn't do it.
Yep.
I
I
guess I
can't
would-
say.
that's a
I
good-
can't
yeah.
say
Yeah, that's a
that.
good
If
earmark
I
there.
knew that there's no consequences, $1 million would be harder for me to steal than like if it was $20 and no consequences.
Okay.
Like someone,
Yeah.
I see someone drop money, and then I go and grab it and don't
Say anything?
get it. Yeah, and give it back.
Ooh.
I think like that is a more likely scenario than if they dropped $1 million.
Yeah, like
And
just
I
the big
take
bag
it
with a dollar sign on it. Just
They leave the briefcase and I pick it up and realize, oh, there's $1 million in here.
Yeah, I think it's almost an unanswerable question. Like there's just the word steal in that question implies there's going to be consequences.
Yeah.
You're taking something that's not yours. That's the problem I have with it, at least, is like you are taking something that's not yours, and that in essence to me is something I'd like to say I would never do. Obviously you've done it before, everyone's done it before, but like when I was little, yeah.
I
don't
stole
remember
when
the
I
last
was
time
little too,
I
yeah.
stole. I don't remember the last thing I stole actually.
Keychain for me.
You just stole a gift card in the parking lot that was on the ground.
That was
so.
not finders keepers,
I'm pretty sure
losers
that's not
weepers.
Are you sure? Was it yours?
no.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
weird.
was.
And now you have it.
No, I think
Sounds
if
like
you find $5,
theft
you
to
go
me.
turn that into the police.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
I would. I found I don't remember the amount of money. In high school I found like several dollars. Like it was somewhere between 5 and 20. And I brought it up to the front desk. I was like, someone drop this. And then like 3 minutes later someone came back inside, went to the front desk, got their money, and they were like, thank you. And I was like, I'm in high school. And then I
Okay,
moved on with my
but
day.
you take this to the real world.
It's
and
all right.
Sorry,
There's
that
no
I can-
front desk there.
You can judge
That was
me.
in the
It's all
library.
right.
I'm judging.
You can judge me for taking a
Well, as soon as
And
this
you know
is-
what?
As soon as this is
Starbucks.
over, actually,
He'll buy you a coffee.
I don't drink coffee.
A tea.
I
I
think
don't
they
drink
have Mountain
tea
Dew
either.
there.
They don't have Mountain Dew, I don't think.
Hot chocolate.
Last time I had hot
Cookie.
chocolate, I got the runs, so now I'm a little bit off of hot chocolate.
Cake
Cool.
pop.
Ooh.
Their cake pops are good.
I don't know what cake pop is.
Well, you're going to eat it and
It's
feel
cake
guilty
and
because
pop.
you stole it.
Because it's still.
Stole it from the parking lot.
All right. This one is if you could go back in time and meet anyone from the past, who would it be and why? First person I went to was Jesus. But other than that, I'm trying to think of like a celebrity or something like less meaningful that I could answer, but that's my go-to answer. If you guys have one, feel free to jump in.
Jesus would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it would.
Jesus would be cool, but that seems too cliche.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to
So
think
if
of a
I
different
were to
one.
go a little more surfacey, I would go meet Tupac.
Yeah.
Um, more specifically, the night he was murdered, quote unquote murdered,
He's still alive.
uh,
We all know that.
and see if it was actually him that got shot. So I'd really
So
want
you
to
wanna go back in time and
I
witness
just
the
want to
murder.
witness an event or save him. That'd be cool too. But then he'd go, dude, I'm trying to fake my death, and I'd be like, okay, dude, you can go. That would be one question I would ask Jesus. So when I get to
What
heaven,
happened to Tupac?
I'm gonna ask him.
Is
that.
Tupac here?
No, I'm just gonna ask him if he actually died on whatever day he died on.
Okay. Hopefully you remember that when you're,
I'll
overwhelmed
plan
in eternal glory. Hopefully you remember Tupac
Oh, yeah,
and his
Tupac.
rhymes.
I like that.
Oh yeah, Tupac. Real quick. I forgot.
That's a gap in my eternal bliss right now. I really need to know what happened to Tupac.
In my eternal bliss. I thought of Martin Luther King. Would be pretty cool. I'd like to have a
Cool.
conversation with him. That'd be pretty cool. That's my official answer. That's surfacey.
Martin.
More surfacey, yeah.
That's not very surfacey. That's pretty profound.
Is it profound? I'm trying to think of like an athlete or an actor that I liked that's dead, but I really can't think of any.
I think I would be in between Albert Einstein or Socrates. I think those
Okay.
would be my two.
Sure.
Albert Einstein, first of all, just to talk with him and just to hear about his like thought process when he's coming up with a theory of relativity. I just nerd out about that, so I would love to see that.
Nerd out, bro.
Nerd out, man. And then Socrates, just to see, and like Plato, just to see if they existed.
To see
Yeah.
if they
Yeah.
And
existed.
talk with them. I don't know, because one of them is there's no record of him ever existing. So
Really?
Plato, I believe. Yeah.
So
I've
is it
never
like one
heard
of them
that.
writing under like a alias or
Are
something?
you thinking of Alexander the Great?
No,
Okay.
no Plato.
What
So
about
sure.
Is it
It's
someone who wrote in like a alias or something, or what's the deal?
he wrote
Yeah.
the Iliad, didn't he? Or no, that was I think that was Homer.
Yeah, that's Homer. Yeah. Socrates is the one who,
I think you thought it was Plato.
yeah, I think it's
He
Plato.
wrote something, I remember.
Yeah, they wrote quite a few things.
Yeah, just a little.
What about Hitler? Would you go meet Hitler?
Yeah, that was another one that came to
And
mind.
then kill him.
I would just encourage him to go to art school.
Encourage him to go to art
Wow.
school?
He got
school?
kicked. He got denied art school. Who knows what would have happened otherwise?
Really?
He also, there was a point where he was in a line of soldiers, and the guy next to him got shot and died.
So you'd bump him over?
I would first try art school.
First art school. If no art school, then I'd bump him over.
Or would you like assist Bonhoeffer?
What if that guy
try
had?
to
To,
help
what if
him
what if
kill
that guy
him?
ended up being worse?
Ooh, maybe it
We'll
was,
get to that. We'll
maybe
get to
it was
that later.
him
Trust
witnessing
me. We'll get to that later.
that.
All right.
So yeah.
All right. This
Einstein.
one's a little less surfacey.
Less surfacey.
Less
so
surfacey.
deeper.
About as deep as you could get. In your own words, what do you think is the meaning of life? Why are we as humans and animals here?
It's crazy.
I would say to live for God. I think like we were created to have this awesome relationship with God, and then it didn't work that way because we screwed up. And
So this is Plan B.
well, no, like that
that
was
what I hear you
that.
saying?
No, that was our purpose. Like back then in the Garden of Eden, like it was to be with God, and it still is. It just we're not good at being with God now, as it was back then. That's probably really confusing if you don't
Do you
hold
wanna
the
clarify?
Christian faith. Just yeah, I mean, Adam and Eve, they ate the forbidden fruit, and that sin separated them from God, and now there's that, you know,
I don't know.
that,
That's why you're
that
talking.
longing. Are you messing around right
No,
now?
I was
Are you
just
messing
laughing at
around
what
while I'm
Chris
giving you
said.
the meaning of life right here?
Dude, I'm just telling you what the meaning of life is. It's to live for God. I'm slightly taking that from a evangelism tool that I use, but
Listen to.
they put it in simple words. So
What do you say to people who don't think Adam and Eve are real? Like if you're talking to a student, for example, and he says, "Well, Adam and Eve isn't real; it's evolution." What do
I
you say?
would say cool.
Cool.
I don't.
Yeah, I don't know if there's
I don't
any
think Adam.
implications
I don't
of that.
think Adam and Eve changed the doctrine of the Bible,
Mhm.
or evolution, I should say, changed the doctrine of the Bible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people mistake evolution and Christianity to be mutually exclusive, and I would say that they definitely there is a point where they can overlap and not be contradictory.
Even on a macro level.
Right. Yep. I would say so. I believe in evolution. I would say I still call myself a Christian also.
Macro evolution.
Mm-hmm. Macro and micro.
Allow me just to clarify that. I just want to ask further. So if
This is still in the meaning of life, right?
yeah, but I just want to take a slight detour.
Detour on evolution, baby.
I don't know where I stand honestly on that. I'm honestly kind of in the middle. I don't. It's honestly never really been that important to me. I think I
Right.
agree that it's not mutually exclusive. I think it could be either way, and that doesn't really change where I stand. So that's why I haven't really researched it all that much. So allow me to ask, why, if evolution is real, then, and I'm not saying it's not.
Sure.
Like, I'm not arguing here. I'm just asking, if it's real, why are we more important, or I guess like, why do we have a relationship with God and not like apes or
Animals.
whatever we evolved from, right?
Sure. Well, I don't believe that apes or any like animal that has like any other animal have a level of consciousness that we do, and the soul that we have. Like I believe we have a soul also, which is a really like hard concept to actually say what it is, but whatever a soul is, I think we have one. And I think that's what sets us apart. We have a higher level of intelligence, and there's a point in Genesis where it talks about how God breathed life into us, and that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't really know exactly how it all worked. I'm not ever going to know, but I have a feeling that that's how it kind of worked. If it was in the realm of evolution.
So basically, we evolved into a point where God was like, "Okay, now I'll breathe life into you."
Well, I think he could play a part into the entire.
Well, I'm not saying he
thing.
didn't know we were going to evolve to that point. He's just like, "I'll start them here, and then they'll evolve here, and that's where I'll do that." I'm getting nods from Nick.
Yeah. It's not something that I like hold tight to, but it's kind of just makes sense in my head. It's
Okay.
kind of my mental model of how it works, and it kind of goes along with like coming from dust, and then at one point being brought up by God, and then having life breathed in. So that's a reference of Genesis for those who are listening. And
Those who are listening.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Anyway, so
so I would say like meaning of life.
Right,
is-
yeah, let's get back to that now.
I'll get
Let's
to that
reel
kind
it
of
back.
topic here. I don't think the meaning of life is to be here in this world and find like riches, power, or any kind of like stature of that sort. But I think they all have a play into the meaning of life, in that like I believe that there's afterlife, and I think that God has a space, a dimension, a plan, whatever that means, where we'll go. And I think like right now is for each of, so myself in particular, but each individual, I would say we're being built and being built up and being in a sense like made like him. Like for the sense of like I'm learning stuff every day, and that's kind of why I believe I'm here right now, is because I'm myself, along with the relationships that I'm building and the person that I'm being made into, how my character is being crafted. And one of the really crazy like things that kind of bounces around in my head, I don't know exactly where I'm at with this, but like the one thing that I ask and really kind of wrestle with is like, why wouldn't we just go to heaven then? Like, why wouldn't we just be there?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think is really cool, I don't know, like, if we go to heaven, if we would have like a good recollection of where we have been. But I would imagine we do, because in the Bible it talks a lot about building character and sanctifying and making us like Christ. And in order to be like Christ, I think we have to have a certain level of like experiences and stuff that that make us who we are. So I think that we would need to have memory. And so anyway, sorry, I'm getting a little far
veering
off.
away, yeah.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying like, so the meaning of life here, I think, is for us to experience what it's like to be in a broken world, in order that we understand what perfection is.
Okay.
That's what I think it is.
Interesting. I just wanted, before I go into the definition, I guess, just wanted to relate to the thought of why are we here? Like, why can't we just go to heaven if it's perfect there? In my personal struggles with like depression and stuff, that was a very present thought. Just like, why do I have to be here doing this? Like, why can't I just be there? Like, what is the point? So I just wanted to note on that. As far as the meaning of life, I think, it's such you could literally describe it a million ways. I agree with both of the things you guys have been saying. I think, to me, I almost don't see the point of focusing on that question. I think it's going to vary from person to person. I think the main thing, as far as, think of the way to word it, I almost think like the question isn't as much what is the meaning of life as to what I should be doing with my life. And I think the answer to that is universally like showing love to people. I think everyone can do that regardless of your upbringing, background, belief system, doesn't matter. I think regardless, every person should be showing love to other people. Now, that's going to look different from every person because, me, like I have a very different, like for example, I have access, I guess access is the right word, but I talk and relate to and build relationships with a very different group than the people Bryce is, for example. I play a lot of video games and I've made a lot of really good friends through gaming and through streaming and stuff, whereas Bryce has made hopefully some good relationships. Hopefully some good relationships with like students and things of that nature in college and whatnot. So I think the meaning of life is to love people. I think everyone should be doing that, regardless of what your belief system is. But I think I think that's going to look different from every person. So I think you shouldn't necessarily focus on an overarching question of what is the meaning of life, but you should focus on what should I be doing with my life, and how should I be acting in my life. I think is a more vital question to be asking in general.
So you answered the question of the question, and then an answer.
I did what?
He changed the question.
He did.
I
That's
changed
cool,
the
though.
question.
I like it.
The meaning of life
No, I really like it.
is
I really like how
generally
you put that. That's really cool.
overarchingly to love people. But that's not necessarily the question I would focus on. The question I would focus on is what does that look like for me? What should I be doing with that? What should I be doing in my life?
Well, that's like, this is what the meaning of life is, and then how do you do it?
Right.
Yeah.
So I think
So
people
you answer it.
I think people generally kind of ask what's the meaning of life? Like, oh, we should all be doing whatever the meaning of life is. Like, yes, but it's going to vary per person. That's why everyone's life is so different. I think that's why, no one's life is the same. My upbringing and my current situation is very different from both of your guys's. Period. I don't know if I have anything else to add on that.
No, I like how you put that. I really agree with
Resonate.
that. The love aspect.
I'm pretty smart, so
Yeah, you are.
thanks, man.
Love, man. Love is the answer.
All right, this one is kind of a doozy. You built a time machine that can go back in time and bring you back to the present after you do what you need to do.
What?
Sorry,
So
I'm just
cool.
laughing at the intro. So far, so good. After you do what you need to do. But it will only work once and never again. So you can never go back in time after. So you can go back and come back once. A man just committed the largest mass shooting in American history and killed over 100 people, including a loved one of yours. You use your time machine to go back and stop him before he commits the act of terror. However, your time machine malfunctioned. You went too far back in time, and the man who committed the act of terror is just a baby. Do you kill him or you let him be? Parentheses, no other choice, so don't even bring up other possibilities. Close parentheses.
That's okay. There's
So-
no other choice.
So,
No.
so wait, I
You either
have,
you're
hang
there
on.
with a knife. Do you kill him or do you just walk away?
because I'm gonna go back to the future.
you're gonna
in
go back
like
to the
5
present.
seconds.
Right. So you're gonna go back to present time, knowing that
No,
he did this.
I
thing.
can't even choose to stay in this.
This is such a manufactured question. I don't like it. If
I
if
would
they put you in
say-
a corner, if
I
time
would-
travel is
or not?
possible,
This is my thought on time travel.
You gotta put in the crystals.
I hope that time travel does exist, and I can explain that to you on this whiteboard behind us.
Oh, great.
Albert
By the way, I just
Einstein.
want to point out we're in the
Oh
room.
my gosh.
Okay, this was awesome for me. We're in the room where it all started. Okay, I met technically. This is the room I first met, quote unquote, or
This is
saw.
the-
I guess Bryce.
This is
Raleigh,
where Chris
and
played.
Nick in this room.
I
We're
gotta
in
say,
a big lecture hall on the campus we went to college at, where we used to hold crew once a week. And this is where I played in the worship band. All right, I sang "God Is Able." That was my song.
God is able, kid.
The only song I ever led on vocals. Okay.
He owned it. Though.
and knew.
And new
He
on vocals
slayed
because I
that
literally
song.
joined the worship band, never having listened to like
Corny
contemporary Christian worship music in my life. So they told me, "Hey, this is your song. God is able. Go learn it. You're gonna sing it." So I was like, "All right." And then Bryce called me "God is Able" kid for a while.
So
Anyway, so this is a
let
cool
me
room.
just
Okay.
like
So he's talking
Are
about
you
the
gonna blow
whiteboard
our
behind us.
minds
I just
with,
wanted to point out that we're in a
Albert
lecture hall,
Einstein here?
time travel,
and it's very cool. A lot of meaning here. Okay.
I won't get into time travel, but
Dude, that's what the question's about.
so
is about
well, no, I
roughly
would
about time
say
travel.
that I think time travel can exist, but it would only be to go into the future and you can't
Forward,
go back.
I would agree with that.
Just gotta increase the gravity, and then you change time. It's kind of crazy.
Or
Hashtag
you just go with the speed of light.
that too. Speed helps.
So you can't go back in time,
Right.
but you might be able to go in the future.
You basically slow down your life while everything else is going at normal speed.
Yep.
It's kind of crazy. I watched a thing on the History Channel, which I found is not a very credible source at all. So these could be wrong
Well,
theories,
we definitely know about the future travel because
according to the History Channel.
no, just because of GPSs, how they function. Time is different out in the in space than it is here, and people who like program GPSs have to account for that.
Really?
Yep.
How? In what way is it different?
Gravity. I'm serious. Gravity plays a huge role in time.
Yeah, it's well if we didn't have the
You have to be more specific with it.
I have no idea. It's like
How to be more specific? I just know it
Albert
does.
Albert Einstein.
I'm really sick of the people that say, "This is the truth." I don't have any reason why.
Alright,
It's just
you
because
know,
I
let's
said
just
it.
get back to the question about
Like
time
how-
travel.
Like
fast
how
food is
I
bad.
would-
about how
I
Nick's
would-
wife thinks Taco Bell's terrible. I'm like, why?
Oh my gosh.
Still yet to give me a
This
reason.
argument
I'll-
still existing.
I'll get you a reason.
It's not an argument.
Albert
it's just a point.
For the
There's no arguing.
I
He's
wouldn't.
not
I
arguing any
wouldn't.
points.
I wouldn't kill him
You wouldn't kill him.
so
because
like,
I think that those 100 people. I mean,
well, it's
that's-
100,000
100,000. That really blows.
and a loved one of yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
Oh no, it was 100 people.
Yeah. See.
Over 100 people, including a loved one of yours.
So
Okay.
I think like
My bad.
I would take hope in that they're like it was no surprise to God because he's outside of time.
Sure.
So like
Which time? There's so many.
So
Anyways,
he
that's-
would have been able to step in and stop that if he didn't want those.
People dead.
Well, I wouldn't say he didn't want those people dead, but like
He doesn't want. I mean, anyone to suffer. It's just
he's just gonna let the
If it has to happen,
brokenness
it's gonna happen,
Like
right.
there's brokenness in the world, and he's not gonna stop all of it. You know, like, and there plays a role in that. Like, if that dude came to Christ, you know, like that after that.
Well, I mean, the presumption is if you leave him be, nothing's different. You didn't change time at
Are you
all.
saying
So.
like after the case?
no,
right?
yeah, I'm
Oh, you're saying after he committed the.
yeah, like I
murders.
mean, like what in Charleston, like where the church people, the black church people got killed by that like racist. Like they went to his court hearing and like said, "I forgive you" and stuff. And like I don't think it changed him at all. But I mean, that was like
That's heavy.
mass media of them like, what the heck is this lady saying? Like, how can she say that after her husband just got killed? I think that's like monumental. Like that shows something more than just life on earth, you know. And I don't want to minimalize 100 deaths, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I would hate to have to go back and then see that there's a baby there and he's going to one day kill
Right.
my loved one.
I feel like that would be a hard thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you could save your loved one of this murderer, you're gonna not do it.
Yeah.
I think my answer is the same. Mostly because my kind of stance is, in terms of, this is, I guess, now that I think about it, kind of a shallow stance because it's time travel, so it really is pretty meaningless. But
It's
like
backwards
traveling
time
in the
travel.
past, so it's pretty meaningless because it doesn't even exist. But my stance on it is, you never know what would have happened if that changed. So I think if you kill that baby, you never know what one of those 100 people is going to do later. And I'm not saying any of those 100 people, maybe one of them is a terrorist. You don't know. But let's say they're all not. They're all like really loved, respected people, okay? Because I don't want
This becomes more contrived.
Right.
Go on.
more out there.
What if it's all
If he
nuns?
gets to make like crazy situations, what if it was all 100 terrorists? No. Like my point is, if even like, you don't know what would have happened with those other 100 people's lives if they lived. What if one of them goes home and, like, so that mass shooting doesn't happen, on the way home they hit somebody and kill somebody else? Like, things
Kill
change.
101
No,
people.
I'm not saying.
You're saying like the
With
butterfly
an
effect
arm.
of
Yeah,
messing
yeah.
with
I'm
actions,
saying if
yeah.
you mess that up, if you mess with things are going to be different. You don't know. It's impossible to say it would be better if they all lived, because that is assuming that they all live perfectly happy lives where they go and nothing bad happens in their life or to anyone they know, and their life doesn't affect anything ever, because it does.
Or you could
But
take
it's also-
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, now I lost my train of thought. No, like that's that. If you're making the argument like that you should kill him because you save 100 people, you don't know what's going to happen in those 100 people's lives.
Or
Go ahead.
the Final Destination.
I was gonna say
starts
Final
happening,
Destination.
and all 100 people start
just
dying
die
off
anyways.
in freakishly ways, one by one.
Oh yeah, there you go. I mean,
After
honestly,
someone
that
has a
does-
premonition
that
that
is-
somebody got killed or was going to shoot them all, and then he got back to reality and realized that the baby was killed of this man.
What?
I don't know.
The whole discussion is just nothing but hypotheticals, so that's why I don't necessarily
What if it
like
was-
it. But
I wouldn't do it either.
What if you went back and it was his dad? So
before he was born,
Before he was born.
it would depend on what kind of person his dad is.
You can't just
You're
can't
gonna
know
kill
all
him?
the things though, right? Like you
No,
don't
not
you don't
really.
know
I don't
what
think so.
his
Yeah,
dad
it's
has done. You don't know
impossible.
like what this supposed killer has done up to this point either.
I almost feel like
You
it's
know, so like
related.
it could have some effect on that.
It would
Like what
be-
if he's
what if he
he's
saved
saved
somebody
100
earlier?
lives
Yeah,
in
yeah.
war or something like
Right,
that.
right.
Like there are so many other implications.
That's a good point
It's like
too.
the only way you could know what the right decision is to know
Mic closer to your mouth.
everything that he has done
Mic
and
closer
will
to your
do.
mouth. You don't have to repeat any of that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
What did you say?
What
I couldn't
he
hear
has
his mic
done or
wasn't
will
close
do,
enough.
and then like if he has kids,
Eat your mic.
you know.
No, it's a good point. You don't know what he's done up to that point.
His kids and his next generations, like killing that baby would stop his entire.
What if his son is Martin Luther King?
What if his name was Adolf Hitler?
You try and get him into art school?
But it's a baby. For 5 seconds, you have a
show
choice.
like paintings to him. Hope he gets better at art. Anyway, I don't know. I just don't. There's like little value in that conversation, I feel like, because there's so many hypotheticals. It's almost like saying, like looking at a horrific situation and looking at how someone handled it, and be like, how would you handle it? It's impossible to say that you would handle it different. Like, it's easy to say, oh, I would have done better or whatever, but it's impossible to feel the emotions of other like people in intense situations. Like, I don't know. It's so easy to say things, but it's a completely different story to actually do them. And that entire story is just nothing but
Well, I feel
hypotheticals.
like the crux of the question is your loved one has died. Would you take someone else's life to
save them.
revert it?
Well,
Right.
99 other people.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
but
save
yeah,
other
for
people,
sure.
yeah.
But that's you're right.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. It's
Just
As-
like measuring the value
like I
of
said, I
local
feel
life
like
and
I
how-
feel like
how a
you know
criminal
you
act.
you almost sound like a monster when you say no, you wouldn't stop a mass shooting, but
You also sound like a monster if you
killing
kill
a baby,
baby.
right? Is yeah. I
It's
mean,
like a lose-lose situation.
It's like,
It really
have you
is.
stopped beating your wife? If you say no, you're still beating your wife. If you say yes, you beat your wife at one point. That's not a good question.
Yeah, it's not.
Just like that. Okay.
Next
it's just like that.
question.
You're right. All
All
right.
right, cut that one out. That was bad. Take 2.
All right. This one. Okay, this one says, my cousin has 2 beautiful twin girls, 3 years old now. She's recently decided she's unfit to be a mother. Whatever her reasons may be, she's made her decision and has granted her mother custody. What is your opinion on non-traditional families with 1 or 0 biological parents present? I don't think it matters that much. Like, it matters to an extent, but I
Are
feel
you
like
answering the question?
yes.
Okay.
I feel like sorry, what? I feel like the main thing is the kid just needs to be cared for and loved and like be raised with being raised with good values, like being taught respect and honor and love and all these things, like being raised in a good manner. Who does the raising, I don't know if is as much important. I'll let you guys talk. Well, I think
I would 100% agree with what you just said. I think that I'm not a parent. Probably won't be for a while. Bryce will be soon.
Bryce will be. His wife is pregnant.
But I really
to clarify
believe
what I meant by that, yeah.
I really
Wife.
I really believe that a child's number one need is to know that they're loved. I think and live in a space where they have that knowledge consistently and know that regardless of the actions that they do. Outside of that, so like mixed families, like step or like grandparents or whatever, like any kind of non-traditional raising, I think that is fantastic. I think that it can be hard if it's a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
It can be really hard with mixed families, especially if you have like step children that are having like a new parent or something like that. That's
right.
a really, really difficult situation. But I think that it can be handled really well. I don't by any means want to like minimize the difficulty of something like that, but
sure.
having no idea what it's like because I have a traditional
Right.
parents, but I think that as long as that love is present in the parenting, that it's going to be a fantastic place for that child to be.
I agree.
That's all you
Yeah,
have to
I
say.
feel like it's just like saying like, do you agree with adoption or not? Because like
Right. I
that's
think
ultimately what it is like 2 non-biological parents.
I think the only thing it adds, like the raising of the child isn't hindered, I guess, by this. The only thing it does for the child is adds the, like in terms of adoption, for example, you add if you're adopted when you're little, for example, you mostly don't even know sometimes that they're not your biological parents, and when you find out they are, or they're not rather, all it does for the kid is add the question of, oh, who's my biological parents? And I'm not trying to make that question shallow, because that can be a very, important question for kids. But at the same time, I think it's important, and I think they will eventually understand that, kind of what we're saying, like whatever the best situation is for them, like as long as they had the best situation that was available, then I don't like the way I worded that, but as long as they know that they were raised right, and what they like, who raised them doesn't necessarily matter as much as who birthed them, I guess. I don't know, I said that weird.
Yeah, I would say we're all on the same page with that one.
Yeah. Okay, let me look and see. So this is a question. This one is actually not from. We got through all the questions from the stream. So this one's actually something I wrote. So I was having a conversation with Tyler, who was the guy in the first podcast. It was actually the night we did the first podcast. We were talking at dinner before we did it. And he was making a point. So he's atheist. In case people didn't realize this by now, all 3 of us here are Christian. You guys know I am, but they both are. And So his point was, if Christianity really is, like, if it really saves you for eternity, if this is really that important to where your soul will be damned for eternity if you do not believe it, why is every Christian not, like, on the street constantly, or not necessarily on the street, but why aren't they, like, constantly talking about it? Why isn't it, like, life or death that other people understand this? Why isn't it, like, why isn't everyone a missionary, basically, was his point. So I want to ask you guys that. Bryce technically is a missionary, but
Well, what?
yeah, what are you guys' opinion on that?
Yeah, I think it's
Wait, people don't talk to people about Jesus.
Yeah, like, why, if you're a
I
Christian,
can't
why
do
why
that.
aren't you constantly talking about Jesus? Like, why aren't you constantly making a point to say, like, hey, you need to believe this, hey, you need to think this, etc.?
I think there are a couple. They can hear me just fine. I'm talking straight into this microphone.
Right here with it.
Just continue.
Yeah. And then it's like,
Move it. Anyways, I think that there are two things. I think that there's there's probably a lot more things too, but two things that I want to mention.
There's only two.
There's
maybe
only
there's
two,
a lot
just
more,
declaring
it is
this
just these
right
two.
now.
Maybe there's a lot more, but
So two things that I'd like to mention in this is, one, there's one aspect of it that it's not. It is every, like, individual's, like, duty per se, but and, like, yeah, with the, like, internal implications of something like this. But at the same time, if the thought process that goes through my head about whether to kind of bring that up with someone or talk with them is that it's not practical and it's not ideal to be talking about it 24/7 like that, because well, you hear it time and time again where people get pushed around or told they need to believe something that they don't, and in a sense told what is true and what is not true by someone else. That's really hard to hear. I think that there's a time and place for it, but I'd say, like, in my life, the reason that it's not continually something that I'm, like, telling someone, like, you need to believe this, you need to do this, is, for one, I'm not here to tell someone how they need to live their life. I think that God does a fantastic job at that, and on a grander scale. I think that there are places where I'm called to speak into, and share what I believe God has done for us. But I think that there are some times when that's not my space to do that. And then there's the other side of things where, like, some people don't because they don't believe it.
they don't believe what?
They don't believe what that, like, so, like, there's a lot of people who are in a spot where it's just like that's not what they believe.
Like Christianity?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So those are my two things. Sorry, one was a lot more.
What? I don't understand
elaborate.
the second one.
They're
You're
an
saying for-
atheist or
Well, no, his
I would
point
say
was if they're
someone with
Christian.
in a Christian context that would call themselves a Christian, but it's not what they believe.
Okay,
I
gotcha.
think there's two different things. Like, there's two.
Oh. That's okay.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Yeah.
I hear you. You want to go, Bryce?
Yeah.
Like, why?
No, I get. the
Why do you?
question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Could you rephrase that question, Chris?
I was
in
gonna
more
put
Why?
it. I was
ways?
gonna put it in examples of your
Okay.
of, like,
Please
crew.
define.
So I was gonna
Please.
say, like, why have events like whatever that event was by the volleyball court? I don't even remember what that was called, but where you just kind of, like, play volleyball and, you know, play pong or whatever. And why have events like that? It's not. I didn't learn about the gospel at that event. Stuff like that. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for a Christian,
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. The
Yeah,
question
this
so
is
we're ruling
the
out my
that's what
second
we're
point,
saying.
right? Yeah.
Like,
we're not ruling out your
No,
second point.
no,
I mean,
no,
they
no.
are Christian.
No,
I kind of get you.
you're
for
saying
people that,
they
like,
claim to be Christ or claim
To
to
be Christ,
a
oh God.
Christian, but then don't live out
Right.
what he's saying. I think if they say they're so Christian doesn't go out and share about Jesus and like what he did. I think that's what the Bible's about. The Bible's about Jesus, and if they're not going out and sharing that, I think that one reason, and this would be why it doesn't happen often, would be they don't know how to.
That's a good point.
They're scared to.
Mhm.
Your relationship with God, it's a relationship, and it's a vulnerable one, and it's a hot topic that you have this fear that people are going to just react like in that movie God's Not Dead. You think like my parents or I know a lot of people that including my parents, who think that like professors all Grand Valley professors are like that professor who are anti-God. And it's like there really isn't anyone like that. Like they are open to discussion if it pertains to the subject they're talking about, and that's generally true about the people on campus and in public. Like I talk to people about it, but we have this belief that if I go and try and tell them what I believe or ask them about what they believe, I'm going to get yelled at as soon as I bring up anything like Christian. And I think that is, one, a lie 9 times out of 10. It's a lie. It doesn't happen. It does sometimes. And I think, too, like, nobody wants to, like, hear what you have to say unless you're listening to what they have to say. And I think, like, that's another thing that they'll go up and try and tell them what they believe, but then they end up not listening to that person that they're talking to and, preaching to, or, and so I think, like, they just have those bad experiences of that. And then to do it 100% of the time, so, like, I go out and I talk to people about Jesus. I think people would hate me. I would hate me if that's all I ever did. Because, like, there's more to a relationship. Like, I like to just have a good time, have fun. And I think it doesn't have to be this, like, I need to get my agenda across every second of every minute I'm with this person. Like, and I think that, like, I think sharing with strangers is great, like talking to them about Jesus, but you're going to have people open up more about what their fears are and what their beliefs are when it's your best friend. And so I think, but the only reason they're your best friend is because you played video games or, like, crushed them on the basketball court or something like that. Like,
oh, you crushed me on the court, dude. Want to be best friend?
Dude,
Dude, you killed me that game. Let's be friends.
You just totally dunked over me. But I think that's going to be the, like, and yeah, as
that was basically
Christians are cool too, man. So
that was
come on.
basically the point I made to Tyler when he said that. I was like, I think very few people are converted just like that. Like, very few people have full on, I hate God, I hate Christianity, it's not real, and just 180 flip in the moment. And I can tell you probably about 0 to maybe 1% of those people convert from the dude out in the sidewalk yelling with his Bible. Preachers. Yeah. Like, that basically accomplishes nothing. It kind of goes back to when I was talking about the meaning of life. I really think that the main thing is to show love to people. And in a Christian's perspective, that is to show Christ's love to people. And I'm not doing that by, like Bryce said, ignoring what they're saying or ignoring them as people. I'm much more interested in growing in relationships with people before I'm interested in getting my, like you said, agenda across. Like, I think that's a shallow way of putting it. I'm trying to think of the way to word it. Like, Tyler, as you guys know on the stream, is one of my best friends. And like I said, he's atheist. Am I being a better friend to him if I'm nonstop doing what he said and being like, hey, you need to believe this, you need to believe this, you need to believe this, etc.?
I would say no.
Yeah, exactly. That's rhetorical. Thank you, Nick.
You're welcome.
I'm much more interested in actually showing love to people and actually loving my friends and caring about people than I am shoving my beliefs in their face. And obviously that's not to say I don't want, it's not saying I don't want people to convert, because obviously that's not true. If someone, I've gotten to witness 3 people coming to Christ, and they were all amazing experiences, and I'll never forget them. But that wasn't because I shoved my beliefs in their face. There's much more value in growing in relationship with someone and truly understanding each other's perspectives and each other's stances than there is in you not knowing anything about this person and walking up and saying, hey, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe what I'm telling you right now. I'm trying to think of how to word it. Like, I've never, like, this I guess is more to the people on the stream, but like, you guys know I've never been preachy on the stream. I've been very open about my beliefs. You guys know I'm Christian. You guys know a lot about my past. I've been very open about it. But that's not because, obviously I care a lot about you guys, but I'm not like trying to push any agenda. I'm just being open and I'm much more interested in growing in relationships with you guys than I am about pushing any sort of agenda or, anything like that. I feel like I had more to say there.
I would say that something about the street preaching, and that it's like better to love. I was just reading this book, and he kind of talked about, it goes back to Jesus's example and said, like, Jesus loved those that needed, like, loved when it was right to love them, and critiqued when it was right to critique. And it's like, you just got to know who that is. And he kind of goes like the prostitutes, the tax collectors, the adulterous, lowly people. He loved on those, the ones that were in the margins. And then the people that thought they had it all together, thought they were the bee's knees and 100% holy, like he was cutting down and kind of pointing out their flaws.
I remembered what I was going to say. So in my conversation with Bryce, thanks for mumbling on incoherently, Bryce, while I remembered what I was going to say. I'm just kidding. Have you even seen Billy Madison, dude? As a reference. Okay. I've seen it like 800 times. I actually used Bryce as an example when I was talking to Tyler. Because Tyler's point was, why isn't every Christian giving up their life to be a missionary, basically? Like, why do you have Christians working? Like, why do I have a full-time office job, like, for example? And my example was twofold. First of all, the main thing is, I think God is bigger than forcing everyone who follows him to live one way or do this one thing or be the same, or like, everyone's relationship is different, everyone's life is different, everyone's life story is different. Everyone is kind of put in different places. I think God is bigger than, once you're Christian, well, now you have to just preach on the street all the time. I think God works bigger than that. Secondly, Bryce gets paid from other people. So, like, there are people that work full-time jobs that support Bryce in his ministry. If there was no one working full-time jobs that are Christians to support missionaries can't do anything. So that's another reason why everyone is not a missionary. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I would say that's true. I would say that, so we call it full-time Christian work. So that's why not everyone's full-time Christian work. But the word missionary, I think, if you're a Christian, you're a missionary. You're called to be a missionary.
Okay. Yeah. I wouldn't agree. Or I wouldn't
But that
disagree with
means sharing in
Different.
your work office,
Yeah, that
or
was
whatever.
another.
But
That was
yeah.
another point I made. Is basically like, I'm able to talk to different people than Bryce. Like I said earlier, Bryce is able to talk to different people than me. Nick's able to talk to different people than me. I think God works bigger than just hoping or like putting you on the street and hoping that people in our offices respectively walk by you. You know what I mean? And just convert that way. So, I feel like that kind of. I think God is bigger than that question. The way it kind of phrases it and puts Christians. I think. Final thoughts on that.
I have none.
Okay. I think that's where we're gonna stop it.
How do we exit out of this?
I am yet to perfect that, so there's no real way to exit other than
We
thank you
count
guys
to
for
three.
listening this long. That's another episode of TBT2G, Tiny Boy Trying to Grow. Any final thoughts from our guests here?
See you guys.
Bye.
I do have a funny story actually. Now, real quick. So for the episodes of the podcast, the way the logo works out, it's like me on one side and the guests on the other side. And Jen, who does like all of my graphic work and is amazing, is doing like caricatures basically, like drawings of the people. Did one for Tyler, and then I gave him pictures of you guys for you. And that's the reason I asked if you had short or long hair.
Right, I knew that.
So I knew which picture I could give him. And so I gave him a picture
Was
with
my
short
haircut
hair.
like this? I don't think so.
Um,
Should have been
and-
with a hat on, honestly.
and he thought you guys were the same person
Oh no.
because they were kind of crappy quality photos.
Well, thanks.
And he was like, "Okay, where's the like?" I was like, "Here's Nick and here's Bryce," or I didn't say here's Bryce. I was like, "And here's the last one." I think it's how I put it. I said, "Here's the last one." He knew there was gonna be 3 people, and he's like, "Okay, which one? When am I getting the last guy's picture?" And I was like, No, that is the last guy." He's like, "What?"
For the record, I have red hair. Bryce
Yeah.
has blonde hair, so a little
That's
little
why.
different.
That's why I said the pictures were crappy quality. You couldn't really see the color of your hair that well, but I clarified
What,
that.
was it black and white?
No, it was just his was grainy, and it looked like kind of. There was a lot of warm colors in the picture, so it was hard to see his hair color. Yours, I don't really quite remember. I think it was pretty obvious. But anyway, that was
That's
a
funny.
funny story, dude.
I look forward to
Should
seeing
be.
those.
I should
those
have
figures.
a yellow beanie on, honestly.
I think Raleigh's getting a beanie, but you're not.
Dang it. I'm wearing a red one.
All right, thank you for listening.
See you guys.
See you guys on another episode here.